The second review module is simple models. So we're going to look at some very simple models and get your feet wet with respect to what kind of things we can do with at risk. So we'll look at some simple examples. And so, well, even before getting into at risk, we will look at how to use Excel native functions. Right? So we will look at a simple model set up as a deterministic model, and then we take the deterministic model and then revise it by incorporating randomness for input variables. And some of the native functions that we'll use are like there is a function called rand, and the rand function will generate random number from 0 to 1. Um, so any random number, any number between 0 and 1, right? So it will be fractional, obviously. And then we have rand between. So rand between, you specify a lower limit and an upper limit, and it will give you numbers. Okay, no decimals here. So only integers between the lower and the upper limits. So we can use these functions to generate randomness. And then we can also set up discrete frequency distributions and use VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP in combination with rand to generate values from a discrete probability distribution, and then use that in our model. And you can use norm INV function to generate random values from a normal distribution. So you give a mean and give a standard deviation, and norm INV will generate values from a normal distribution with that mean and standard deviation. Again, we can generate the random values from the normal distribution and use them in our model. Now, for Poisson and exponential, there are no, for exponential, there is no inverse function in Excel, but that's not a problem because exponential probability density function is really very simple function, as we will see, and we will look at examples of that as well. Okay, so we'll look at incorporating randomness or the simulation part using native Excel functions first. Okay. And then we will use the data table functionality to run repetitions of the simulation model. So that is the key. So you're going to run, once you set the model up, then you run the model for X number of repetitions. So 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. So then you have 10,000 different values. It is like actually observing 10,000 instances in real, assuming that the model closely reflects the reality of the system, then you're looking at 10,000 outcomes from that system. And then you can analyze those 10,000 outcomes and then repeat it for different scenarios, different decision variables, and select the one that's best for each scenario. And then we take that native Excel functions model and then use at-risk functions. Okay, there are specialized functions for generating random values within at-risk. So we'll do that, and then we can run sensitivity analysis using a feature called risk sim table, which is part of the at-risk. Okay. And we also look at setting up correlated input variables. We talked about correlated input variables in the previous video. So we'll look at a very simple example. So we will be using these concepts in a much larger setting in case studies. So here we are looking at, we're just getting exposed to those minimal level functionality of at risk.